Welcome back, everybody, to Sports by GSMC Podcast Network. I am your host, Jeremy Lapidus. If you are just tuning in, we just finished breaking down the Knicks falling in Game 7 in historic fashion and breaking down the Eastern Conference Finals between the Pacers and the Celtics. I have the Celtics in 6. Go back and listen to that if you are interested in my logic there. But in this segment here, we're going to break down a couple of the other series clinching games, this time in the Western Conference. And then we're going to break down the Western Conference Finals at the end of our show. So stick around for that if you want to hear my predictions. This segment, we're going to talk about the Mavericks' 1-point victory over the Thunder to send that 1 seed home packing. So we'll take a look at that in just a second. But before we do, remember that if you would like to be an even bigger part of the show than you already are, all you need to do is go to gsmcpodcast.net. Leave a tip or donation with a message in it. That message will pop up on the bottom of the screen for you, me, and everybody else around the world to see. If you have a burning question about sports, leave it in the comments, leave it in the donation. I will get to it as soon as I can. I appreciate everything that you do give, everybody for watching and supporting and sitting down on a beautiful Monday afternoon to talk some sports with me. But like I was saying, we are going to talk a little bit about the Mavericks and their comeback in Game 6, excuse me. A tight Game 6 to send home the 1 seed Oklahoma City Thunder, a young Thunder team, as the Dallas Mavericks head to the Western Conference Finals. The Dallas Mavericks had a huge second half comeback, outscoring the Oklahoma City Thunder by almost 20 points. They were down by They were down by almost 20 at halftime. They were down by 15 with 17 with a little bit of time left in the third quarter, and they're able to crawl all the way back. The Mavericks down the stretch played great basketball, and the Oklahoma City Thunder didn't really help themselves too much down the stretch. Now, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander played a great game, right? 36 points, 43 minutes of action. But I want to break down the end sequence of this game, because one of the things I noticed when I was watching it is, and I know Luka needs a lot of attention, I know Kyrie needs a lot of attention, but PJ Washington was left wide open in the corner for basically the entire fourth quarter, and that ends up being what does the Thunder in. There's a little bit of a drive and kick to PJ Washington in the corner from Luka Doncic. Now, he ends up getting fouled, sent to the line. They are down by 1 at that point, and he gets 3 shots. On that foul, the Thunder challenge. And I believe at the time, the Thunder had 1 timeout remaining. Believe the Thunder had 1 timeout remaining at the time, and they challenge it, and they lose this challenge because it was pretty obviously a foul. It's pretty obviously a foul. He hits him on the arm, and yet he's asking for a challenge here. So with 1 timeout remaining, they challenge this, and they obviously lose. Now they don't have a timeout left. The Dallas Mavericks are at the line shooting 3. And they missed that third one intentionally, right? Smart play by PJ Washington and the Mavericks to have that happen, but 2.7 seconds left on the clock. You would have liked to have that timeout remaining. You really would. It's the kind of moment where being able to collect yourself, even if the ball doesn't advance, being able to have a set play from out of bounds, being able to get it into the hands of Shai Gilgeous-Alexander rather than Chet looking for the first guy and getting it into Lou Dort's hand to take that 3/4 court shot. It's it's not a good situation for you to be in as a team, right? And that was one of the bigger coaching questions that I had here. And again, this Thunder run, this run for the Thunder shouldn't be understated, right? They had a really great season, a young team, a super young team, with a lot of young talent, being the number one seed in a stacked Western Conference, taking it to 6 games against a team with Luka. Uh, they have holes to fix. They know where the holes are. They need to get a more physical presence down low than Chet, who is a really good rim protector. But when it comes to being physical down low, Daniel Gafford was bullying him all series long. And Josh Giddey probably doesn't have a place on this team anymore. But they have assets. They have the ability to go fix it. They can go out in this offseason and make a trade. They can go out in the offseason and sign the guys. They can go, and if there's someone they love in this draft, they can move up to get him, or they have the assets to make a big move, and this is probably the time to do it. Your team has arrived. Now, it's a little earlier than you think it's going to be, but you have the MVP candidate in Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. You have a lot of other great players. Lou Dort, incredible on defense. Jalen Williams continues to show up as that bona fide number 2 option that's you'd like to have on a team. And Chet Holmgren, with his defense, his ability to stretch the floor on the offensive end as well, second in Rookie of the Year voting behind Wemby. This team's future is looking really bright. And this is the time for you to make that push. You don't have to go all in. You have enough assets to make a big trade and still have assets remaining. So this is the time for the Thunder to do something like that. The Mavericks and we'll break this down in a couple segments from now. The Mavericks versus the Timberwolves. But the Oklahoma City Thunder here, again, they're a young team. This is a successful season. This is not a season where we're going to look back on it and say, "Oh, it's disappointing that they didn't make it past the second round." No, they overachieved here. They were not supposed to be the 1 seed in the West. Their offense, their defense all season long has been awesome. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, I mean, he was great before this season, but he took that next step into MVP caliber player this season, and you can build around that. You still have room to build. This team has a really, really, really bright future. So, all hats off to the Thunder. This should not throw a wrench in your plans. Keep your head up. Believe in yourself. You're gonna do great things, Thunder. But their run does end here. Overall, I don't agree with the challenge, and that's really my biggest gripe with what the Thunder did. I think the coaching all seasons for the Thunder has been relatively solid, but that right there, I think that really hurts. I don't know. I don't know how I know the idea of, hey, you don't want to send him to the line, but I mean, that was clearly a foul. Shai should have known it. He definitely hit him in the arm. There's no reason to ask for a challenge there. You just have to take it, and you don't want to put your team in a situation where, hey, 2 seconds left, we have to get this rebound and we have to just panic, put up a shot. You could make a play. You can draw up a play and give yourself a little bit of a better chance. Now, 2 seconds desperation heave is never going to give you a great chance. But I would have liked I would have liked their chances a lot better if they had that timeout. Chet gets that rebound and they have the timeout. Now in that situation, PJ Washington probably doesn't purposely miss that free throw, but still, you're not going to have time to drive down the court and get a layup. You're putting up a 3 anyway, so it's still a desperation heave, game-winning attempt at that point. Anyway. The Thunder had a great season. The Mavericks continue on, and we'll talk about a little more about them in segment number 5 when we get to it. But in the next segment coming up, we are going to talk about the other historic Game 7 that happened on Sunday night between the Minnesota Timberwolves and the Denver Nuggets. The Minnesota Timberwolves coming out on top in that one, in a historic comeback. We just talked about a little bit of a comeback here between the Mavericks and the and the Thunder, but this one was a historic comeback, a Game 7 historic comeback. So we'll talk about that coming up next on Sports by GSMC Podcast Network.